Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to A Voice for Men, News and Activism. This show is about bringing men's rights activism to center stage and encouraging all those interested in men's rights to become active. We bring you news, commentary, interesting and important guests, and most of all, you. This is where you get to listen to the news you care about. This is where you get to comment on it and act. You are the reason we are here. You are responsible for making things happen in your world, and we are here to help you do it. Call in and engage. Be inspired. Be the best MRA you can be. Remember that doing anything at all is better than doing nothing. And here is the best place to start. The time for standing by on the sidelines is over. The time to act is now. Tonight, on A Voice for Men, News and Activism, we have as our guest none other than Kudi, the mystical rodent activist. Kudi has gained marked popularity in the YouTube circuit as a commentator on the men's rights movement, or men's human rights movement, as A Voice for Men currently calls it. It is important to note that Kudi is not an MRA. He is not even human. He is, in fact, a rodent. We are having him on the show in order to present a completely outside perspective of what is currently going on in the MRM during this season of controversy. Please join us.
Welcome to AVFM News and Activism. Hello, Robert. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Sorry for a little bit late calling. As always with Skype, I have to log in and do this other stuff right when the show starts. So sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Great.
Hey, before you get started on the news today, I've just got a couple blurbs that I want to throw out to our listeners. Good things, really. Not good at all, guys. First off, I want to bring up the issue of double standards here, and I'm going to use very plain, coarse, and crass speech as I'm looking at the New Jersey News. Former Essex County Teacher of the Year admits to having sex with 15-year-old student. Teacher of the Year, I bet. No. I'm really not going to take the time to read this damned article because most of our listeners here have heard the same tired story over and over again. That boy's fucking lucky as hell, isn't he? Isn't he? Not a lick of fucking jail time for this stupid bitch, okay? That's the type of hypocrisy we're dealing with. You let that have been a man who had messed with a 15-year-old student, and he would have been hung up by his cock and balls from the highest rafter. I shit you not. That is the hypocrisy we're dealing with, folks. And while it may seem petty to take a pop shot at a particular story, well, my friends, I'm here to tell you that this is a repeating pattern. Over and over and over again. Just turn it into a damn statistic and put it out there. You take a look at it, and you tell me whether or not this is some bullshit. All right. On a slightly different subject. Also on the measure of hypocrisy, a couple guys, I'm not going to name names here, they're relatively influential TV show guys have managed to get a hold of a pair of Kate Upton's panties, and they've signed them and are auctioning them off. For charity, mind you. No, I'm totally joking about that. Guys would probably end up getting bitch slapped by every single feminist that they ever cross the line with ever again. No, instead, we've got Ellen and Helen Campbell, who they say is an inspiring young woman who has done much for the cause of organ donation, who is signing a pair of boxers from Justin Bieber. And you could only imagine the way that the crowd reacts on Ellen's show. Oh, Justin Bieber's boxers! Really? You know, if the sexes were reversed, one word keeps coming to mind. Creepy. Creepy, I tell you. Not that I really give a flying fuck whether or not Justin Bieber's underwear is being passed around television. I'm just talking about the hypocrisy of it, the double standard. So, I think I'm done with my little blurbs here that I wanted to send out. Why don't you take it away, Robert?
Okay, I didn't hear about the Justin Bieber thing. When did that happen?
Earlier today.
Oh, so it was earlier today. That's okay. All right. Well, I mean, again, not like I give a crap either, but clearly, for real. How old is Justin Bieber now? He's what, 16, 17 years old?
No. I think he turned 18 already.
Okay. So it's all cool. Though. I see. Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter when you've got a whole bunch of 40-some-odd women sitting in the crowd going,
"Sure, right,
woo, Justin Bieber's underwear."
Yeah, right. Well,
you let that be a crowd full of guys with a couple.
Oh, yeah, a 41-year-old man. If I had the panties
holding
of
up
a 21-year-old
pair of Kate Upton's underwear or Miley Cyrus underwear.
Yeah, right. Forget about it. I would be rightfully labeled as a creep for the rest of my life, but not so. I am a creep, but that's beside the point. I keep my creepiness to myself for the most part. It only comes out after a couple of beers. But anyway, sort of on the same vein, I want to give everybody an update on a story I reported on from my neck of the woods in Northern Virginia. I think it was 2 weeks ago, right around February 8th, a boy was suspended, got an out-of-school suspension for pointing his finger like a gun and going bang at another student. He was given a 3-day out-of-school suspension. It made the Washington Post local part of the newspaper, and I featured it. I talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago. I think it was a couple weeks ago. And today in the Washington Post, there's a follow-up story on it. The parents were successful in getting his record cleared. Now, to be sure, I want to talk to everybody about what the suspension meant. This was an out-of-school suspension which stays on your record for basically your entire academic career, and stays on your record for life. Now they have digital records. They can keep these records for decades. So this out-of-school suspension would have come up in a background security check had he applied for a job with the federal government or any number of other government contractor jobs or banking jobs. And this the write-up on the out-of-school suspension would have said exhibiting or engaging in behavior that put other students at danger or himself in danger. And that would have been the exact same thing, the exact same write-up, had he brought a real weapon to school. A real weapon, not his hand, a real weapon. Had he brought a real firearm to school, that he would have got suspended, and that would have been the exact same write-up. The school priorly defended himself, saying that we're just trying to be sensitive. We're just trying to make sure to let everybody know that this is unacceptable behavior and all this other nonsense. I mean, this is something that boys have been doing since time immemorial. And just to clarify why this boy did this, what had happened is another student had mimicked drawing a bow and arrow and shooting the bow and arrow at him, and in response, he pointed his finger as if it was a gun and went pow. So basically, he was literally playing cowboys and Indians. He was playing.
Yeah, he did an Indiana Jones on the playground.
Yeah, right. Yeah, heaven forbid. But that's what happened. Anyway, he was suspended, and the parents fought vigorously to get his record expunged, and the school, the administration of the school, vigorously defended their actions. Of course, they don't like saying they're wrong, but they were successful in getting them to expunge the records, which is great news for the boy. But what was really disappointing was the reaction of the school. they sent a letter to the mother, not the father, mind you, but to the mother, saying that that we're only going to do this on the promise that you're going to teach your son appropriate behavior, and it was the language of the letter was extremely condescending. Said the parents, they didn't publish the letter. And the parents and the lawyer were very disappointed in the whole thing. They thought that this was a step forward for the school, that they did the right thing, and they were expecting some conciliatory language, and they got none. When clearly they did deserve it. I reached out to these folks in the comment section of the article. One of their friends had posted a response there. Hopefully, they will get in touch with me. I'd love to do an anonymous interview with the parents to get their full side of the story. But
I'd love to see the contents of what was sent to them.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see the letter, absolutely. But they didn't want to put it up in the Washington Post because they didn't feel that it represented what truly happened to their son. And obviously, what it is an extremely arrogant school administration. I've seen this a million times in education. People who pay attention to education issues, especially when it comes to boys, are very familiar with this type of arrogance. They don't want to admit they're wrong. They have this sanctimonious, condescending attitude towards all parents.
And this letter was sent before or after the kid's record was expunged?
It was sent right at the day that the kid's records was expunged. It was an announcement that the kid's records had been expunged. And these administrators did a pretty good job of paying the kid out to be a real disciplinary problem and all this nonsense, but the parents have been trying for a while to get help for their son who was having learning difficulties, like many young boys do.
Especially in this feminized school system.
Right. Yeah, and they complained that the school was ignoring them, or that they just didn't take their request seriously, which is typical for how schools treat young boys. And I'd like to talk with these parents to have an interview with them. They'll have a friendly interview with me. I'll put things in the correct light if they would like to give me a call. Maybe they're listening, maybe they're not. If you are, please get in touch with me at AVFM News at avoiceformen.com. If you're listening, you're probably not, but I reached out, so hopefully we'll get in touch with them and I'll do an interview with them if they so wish. But that's good news, but still with a kind of a sad side to it. Basically, the deal is this school the only reason they did this is because they were under public pressure. They were under exposure. They were under public pressure to do what they did. So that's that.
Well, I'll tell you what. The way it's going, give it another 10 years at the current rate, and I promise you, a boy will ask simply to use the bathroom, and because the feminists consider the penis as a weapon.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. I need that's cool. I need to start using that sound program too. Nice. That's a good show. Okay. The next story, before we go to the break, and we'll get Kudi on here in a little bit. French fathers climb. This is news from RT News. It's coming from France. This is from a couple days ago on the 17th. French fathers climb 40-meter high cranes, demand right to see their children. And they have plenty of photos here in this news story. It says here, it reads, 2 fathers denied the right to see their children have climbed and occupied giant cranes in Nantes, France, and are demanding the review of their court decisions. One man has been camped out on a crane for 2 days. Serge Charmet, 43, scaled one of the cranes on Friday morning. On the lower platform of the 40-meter high structure, Charmet unfurled a homemade banner with big block letters reading, Benoit, 2 years without a dad. Benoit, I guess, is his son's name. And it goes on to read, one of the guys actually climbed down long before the other guy did. The other guy stayed up there for quite a while before he came down. But basically, this is interesting because these guys are mimicking the actions of Fathers for Justice in the UK. And I don't know if the story does not indicate that there's any connection with them. And I asked some people I tried to ask on Reddit if anybody knew that there was any connection, if this was actually an organized movement like Fathers for Justice, if they had anything to do with them. But I haven't gotten any response. But this story goes to show that this kind of thing is spreading all over the world. We got Fathers for Justice doing these kinds of things in the UK and in the US and in Canada, I believe. And now it's spreading to France. I think this is a good sign of solidarity amongst fathers and fathers' rights activists. I'd like to see more of this thing happening. So we'll see. It's pretty interesting news, I think, coming from France. You wouldn't have thought until now that that's what they're doing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of neat news, actually. So that's news for news. We have, coming up after the break, we have Kudi, the mystical rodent activist, joining us. I'm very excited about this. I'm a big Kudi fan. I'm sure many listeners are. And we're going to try to get him hooked up here in just a second. He's Skyping me right now. We're going to try to get him on the news, or get him here on the show. And we'll see what happens. James, you want to go ahead and give us a music break?
Yeah, sure. We'll go ahead and play our ad a little bit early today. Here we go.
Are you a men's rights activist living in the United States? Do you want to support A Voice for Men and the men's movement, but you are on a tight budget? Here's some good news. If you use a cell phone, you can now save real money on your bill and help the men's movement at the same time. And you can get a free Android while you do it. Paul, this is John.
John?
Yeah, John.
You sure you're not a woman?
A woman? Of course I'm sure I'm not a woman. I hate women.
How much do you hate them?
A lot.
Well, that sounds pretty good, but how do I know you're not a woman? You could be a woman, and I don't talk to women.
Solovai, a company owned and backed by cellular giant T-Mobile, is now offering the best deal in the business for new customers. You get unlimited talk, text, and data on a 4G network and a free Android after rebate for $49.95 a month plus tax. Is this James Huff, the producer of A Voice for Men Radio?
Yes, it is.
And Mr. Huff, do you hate women?
I do hate women.
How much do you hate them?
A lot.
Well, this is John the Other, one of the hosts of A Voice for Men Radio.
Do you hate women?
You bet I do. I really hate them.
Great.
Carry on. No contracts. No surprises on your bill. No bullshit. Compare that to what you are paying now. All you have to do is go to ordertmobile.com and enter the promo code AVFM in all caps, and you will be on your way to saving money on your monthly phone bill and helping A Voice for Men carry on with its mission. Is this Christina Hansen, the fuzzy bumblebee?
No, motherfucker, it's Willie Bumblebee, and I'm pandering to the cock.
Are you also a traitor to your gender?
Of course I am. Why else would you keep me around? And thank God for your manly supremacy, John.
Very good. Carry on, Christina.
All hail the mighty penis.
Remember, that is ordertmobile.com, promo code AVFM in all capitals, to get your free Android and the best unlimited phone plan in the industry today. The free Android is a limited time offer, so the time to act is now.
Hello, everybody. We're back. I hope you're still with us, and I hope that you guys are starting to call in. We have an exciting evening planned this evening. We are very, very lucky to have with us tonight a very esteemed guest, very, very erudite commentator on the men's rights movement, the one and only Kudi, the mystical rodent activist. Kudi, how you doing?
Hello there.
Hi, Kudi. How you doing? Thanks for joining us
great.
tonight. That's great. Thanks for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
An honor.
Oh, well, great. I'm really happy to have you here. We're glad we could get in touch with you. It was kind of a last-moment thing, and I'm really glad that you were available. You got a lot of fans here. I can see there are plenty of people in the chat room right now.
Hello.
Yeah, great. So our listeners. Okay. So, Kudi, going to start with a little bit about your background. You are a rodent.
That's correct.
Yes, and you are a mystical rodent activist. Am I to?
Yeah, I call myself an MRA for short.
Right, of course. Right. Just to clarify things, what kind of rodent are you? If you don't mind me asking, I was thinking maybe a gerbil or something.
I'm an octodont. Some humans call me a daegu.
A daegu, okay. And where do you come from?
You can find me in South America.
Oh, okay, great. In South America. So you just come out to visit sometimes. Your friend there that does videos with you. Is that how that works? You just go over to his house and.
Well, I can visit anywhere I want to, anytime. I have a spiritual connection to the internet.
Oh, I see. I understand. That's cool.
Hence the word mystical.
Right. That's great. That's pretty handy. I bet that comes in pretty handy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody can touch me.
So how did you? You're obviously very keenly aware of what's going on in the men's rights movement. How did you become interested in what was happening in the men's rights movement? Was it just because you shared an acronym with MRAs at the time, or?
No, that's just a coincidence.
Okay.
I've always found humans very interesting.
Okay.
One of the most interesting animals, other than donkeys and elephants.
Okay. Well, what's interesting?
Pretty much.
Donkeys.
Donkeys. Well, they make a lot of noise.
Okay.
Annoying. Some people consider them annoying. I consider them just fascinating animals.
Okay, interesting.
And elephants are really chubby. Really chubby.
That's cool. So to go back to humans, what do you find interesting about humans, and specifically men's rights activists, or what's happening with the men's rights movement? How did you sort of?
I don't know any other animal with such a huge capacity for confusion, aside from humans.
And this is what kind of drew you to studying humans, basically, just their capacity.
Also, they're a lot like rodents.
Okay. In what way? Explain.
Well, we have a lot in common in terms of our genetic heritage.
Right, much more so than people think. We're both.
We're all curious little warm-blooded animals.
Okay, so about what's happening in the MRM right now, there's been a lot of controversy. I know you've been watching. Everybody's been watching. There's a lot of buzz around with the name change that, as far as A Voice for Men is concerned, they're going to start using the term Men's Human Rights Movement or Men's Human Rights Activist. There's been and that, along with a lot of other things that have been going around, some different personality conflicts and whatnot, and some other people concerned about a lot of different things. Things seem to be coming to a schism, so to speak. Although I hesitate to use that harsh of a word. Give us your thoughts about what's going on right now, and where you see it going, and where you see it, where it came from, in your opinion. Go ahead and give us a little rundown about what you think's going on.
Well, first I'd just like to say that I'm very pro-human, so
okay.
I don't mind calling myself a humanist.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could be, I'd be honored to be known as an honorary human. That would be a great honor.
We'll work that out, Kudi. We'll be able to work that out.
But I think something that I'll have to earn. But
I'd like to be called an honorary rodent sometime. I've actually been called a rodent from time to time. A rat.
That's another reason why I became interested in the men's rights movement also. But as for human rights, I know humans pretty well, and I know they use that word to mean a lot of different things. So I'll just say that, try to be clear in what you mean. Try to communicate to your audience, and try to be honest, and try to be efficient with your message, right?
Right.
So, if you're going to add another letter to if you're going to confuse people, change your name, that doesn't look good. If you're going to add too many letters, obviously, less is more. So, just think carefully about how you can reflect your position honestly. Don't try and play any games. It's going to bite you in the end.
Okay, so that's it. Some advice that you're giving to people.
Whether you want to choose human or not.
Okay.
That's up to you.
Right. Might be confused with the rodent sometimes. I don't know. Maybe.
It should depend on who you think your audience is and how they will interpret that.
Explain tell us what you see fueling the current conflict that's going on. We spoke briefly about this before this afternoon. Said that they were.
I think a lot of it is lack of communication. Lots of I see a lot of paranoia on both sides of the rift, and lots of talk about hidden agendas and just general suspicion and misunderstanding, stemming from lack of communication and confusing terminology. I've heard the word traditionalist thrown around a lot. I've used it myself. The words conservative, liberal, progressive. These words don't have very much meaning. They can mean different things to different people. So it's a shame when everyone agrees on their values and priorities and what they want to see, but they use they interpret the words differently, and they think they have some profound disagreement when the reality is they don't.
Yeah, I've sort of boiled things down myself over the last 6 months or so. I've been able to study a lot more about what's going on within the men's rights movement, and I see the basic divide as being along lines of either collectivism or individualism, and that's primarily where I see it. People will talk about left, right, conservative, liberal. Look, it all comes down to two basic concepts: collectivism or individualism, and right now the collectivists are usually looking towards the government to help solve the problem, and individualists are not looking towards the government to solve the problem. I honestly think that given today's current environment, we should probably be pushing toward an individualist culture, because we've got too much government intervention, too many extraneous programs like VAWA, and all of the money being spent on domestic violence. And the only way that you're going to reduce that level of intervention is to get people to learn how to depend upon themselves. So that pushes a more individualist nature. But to tell you the truth, if we're really going to get anything done anytime soon, we're probably going to have to continue to lobby short term.
Well, I think the important thing is to spell out your goals and be persistent in achieving those goals, so that you don't get mission creep, and you don't start to invent problems, and you don't start to invent solutions for fake problems, which is what governments tend to do. But also think about it this way: you are a collective. This movement is a collective. If you want to make an impact, you can't just be individuals, right? You have to be team players, right?
Well,
think in terms of the greater good for the movement. So in a sense, you will have to be a collective.
I certainly understand collectivity and similarity of ideas and similarity of goals. What I mean is collectivism and individualism insofar as purely self-sufficiency is concerned. And right now we've got a lot of people who in our society, and this is a general blanket over society, that are simply not learning how to be self-sufficient without taking something from out of the coffers of the treasury, so to speak.
I think some of the divide comes from a different interpretation of what the word equality means, because for some people think that equality is not natural, and you need to have some authority to carefully monitor everyone's status to make sure everyone is equal. And some people look at the whole power structure and the system and of authority and that sort of system as inherently unequal. And I think that the way to produce better equality is to strengthen the individual, right? Because individuals, I guess if you take individualism to extreme, everyone would be equal, because no one would have power over anyone else. There would be no higher authority, no no collectives to control, you could say.
Kudi, we talked briefly earlier on about how you think that a lot of this current controversy is fueled by the fact that this movement's growing, that there's a lot of new people coming in.
Yeah.
And then, so how and what different dynamics do you see working into it? I have my own ideas about that, but I want to hear yours first.
I think that to some extent we have been defined by our enemies and our opponents. Our opponents have always said that we're misogynists. That was never true, but they've always said that. And some people are coming into this movement who don't see that there is no conflict between the sexes. There's nothing to be gained from gaining collective rights for men or for women, and seen as a zero-sum game. And I don't know. That's one of them.
Okay, I was going to say I think that there's a lot of if you look at the growth of, let's say, the Reddit community, for example, which has grown exponentially in the past year, and a lot of men's rights activists like myself are becoming kind of frustrated with what we see there, because there's a lot of suspicion that there's actually people there's some co-option going on, and there's people infiltrating that area. But also, I think probably the biggest thing is there's a lot of people that are just now getting exposed to this, and they're saying things without having been exposed to what's been going on in the men's rights movement long enough. They're saying things that kind of make people angry. They're saying things before they actually think about the issues or actually educate themselves on them. And especially just to take one example, you're talking about traditionalism. There are still a lot of people, newcomers into the movement that talk about selective service, and now that women are allowed into combat roles, they should be required to sign up for the selective service. And there are some people like myself who said that they should have always had to sign up for selective service because they have the same voting rights as men do. But there's still lots of newcomers and things say, no way, we can't have women in combat. And this is just an example. There are guys who think, women aren't fit for combat, and there are people who say, that's how can you send your daughter or your wife out to combat? That's dishonorable. That's clearly a traditional conservative type argument. But my analysis of that is that these guys are still very much blue pillars. They're people who are still very much exposed to the ideas of the blue pill world, and while they're interested in our message, they're coming in, they're saying stuff, and they end up being kind of an antagonizing force. And people get, like you said, people are paranoid. Like, the tradcons are invading us, and then people from, let's say, the liberal spectrum come in and say some things, and people say, the collectivists are trying to co-opt us, and they're infiltrating. How do you think those
feminists or leftists? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I think that the bottom line is you can't espouse hypocrisy. You can't say let's have a double standard. Right. If you're going to say you're about equality, then you have to maintain credibility and be consistent. And I understand that a lot of the reasons behind the double standard are just emotional. Like, the idea of women in combat, that's,
Yeah, some people find it repulsive.
That's an emotional it's an emotional reaction.
Sure.
It's not necessarily any kind of intellectual theory or principle that they're basing that on.
Mm-hmm. As far as we're seeing so much of this now, this type of thing now, and that's just an example. We're seeing so much of this now in recent months. How much do you think this influx of newcomers are actually adding fuel to this fire that we're seeing now? And actually, now that we're kind of talking about the subject, where do you see this whole thing? I'm sorry?
Why are these newcomers coming into it right now? What is drawing them in?
Well, there's just more publicity going on from the men's rights movement. We're actually, my analysis is that if you look at, I regularly do searches on Google on men's rights movements or men's rights activists, and in recent, really just in the past 2 months, there has been a real explosion and a lot of interest, even albeit very, very negative interest, in what's going on with our movement. We're starting to get a lot more mentions, especially with VAWA they're trying to reauthorize VAWA again now after failing to do so last year. You're just seeing a lot more buzz on the internet and in the media about men's rights, and so people are becoming attracted to our message. And we had a big AVFM just as an example, and we are not the only men's rights organization out there, but our traffic skyrocketed in December and January. We're now in the top 50 Alexa rankings, which is amazing. Just a few months ago we were like kind of down there. But without a doubt, people are starting, and it's not just us, and again I bring up the example of Reddit, there's just been a lot more people, the growth is becoming organic now. It's just growing in itself.
Yeah, there's one other thing that I don't think that we can underestimate, and that is the fact that the National Organization Women's newsletter for their family law advocacy specifically mentioned for the first time fathers' rights and men's rights groups.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
As being a threat, and that is a big deal, because once your enemies are forced to recognize you as a threat, you've got that ball rolling. Yeah,
now everyone else is going to recognize you. Everyone else is going to say, "Wow, there's this," and they're going to come right to the websites and go look at it, and they're going to go, and many people are going to say, "Hey, I like what these guys are saying." So that's what's making it grow. And what happened at the University of Toronto was a big deal too. Go ahead, Kudi.
It's growing. I don't know. I wonder if you could figure out how many people, do some sort of polling research. How many people have even heard of the men's rights movement? Percentage of the population. Wouldn't that be interesting to know?
Yeah, that would be interesting to know. I don't think there's a way. That's something I've kind of suggested.
You have to probably spend money to find that.
Yeah, you have to spend money to do that. Yeah, I mean there are ways you can do it, but you have to get a polling firm, and even then, those firms that do research like that are notoriously inaccurate. They really are. So now, I mean, the only indication we can get is traffic to our website, traffic on other websites and different places, and just mentions in the press. And that there's no doubt that all three have been growing. Our presence in the media is growing. People are starting to take notice, and that's attracting people to what we're doing. And I think that's inexorable. I mean, the world is definitely ready for the men's rights message. There's no doubt about that. But the thing is that the world's coming into it, and now we got all these new people coming in and saying things and voicing their opinions, and it just seems to be. It seems to me that what's going on now is kind of like a necessary growing pain of the movement. It was bound to happen, I think. But as far as the future,
I think we get a lot of you guys get a lot of comfort from ex-feminists or disillusioned feminists more so than anti-feminists, because people who from right off the bat did not like the feminist message, didn't like the whole idea of equality. There's not that many of them, but those people wouldn't be attracted to men's rights because they don't believe in equality to begin with. But people who did believe in that and then didn't follow the feminist ideology, the men's rights movement is basically for them. It's not really for men. It's really just for equality for men.
It's for people who've taken the red pill.
Yeah.
Right. It's people who were once blue pillars, as I was, and as most people were, I think.
And it's for people who aren't afraid to be a bit rebellious or a bit, attacked, bullied, demonized, at least for the time being, because they know that feminism is politically correct. They know that feminists are in power.
So what do you
think? A lot of people are just afraid of feminism. Feminists will tell you that, feminists in general are just about the most hated group out there.
Sure.
But people don't talk about that because they're afraid.
Oh, yeah.
So it just, all you need to do is provide a network. The internet has provided that. And people can talk to each other and figure out, none of us are really, buying this feminist stuff. And then that's basically what's caused, it's really the internet causing this explosion of truth.
Right. There's this, what's happening now would have been inconceivable just 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
Well, even though the internet was around 10 years ago, I don't think that people really I don't think, and there were men's rights people back then, but I don't think they would have dreamed that this would happen now in this way. I don't think.
They always existed. They're we're learning about the writings of ancient cultures for us who opposed feminism, and now, and then they were squashed, burned, erased from history, and just now we're excavating them from the ruins.
We know just in recent history, like in the past 100 years, there were men's rights groups, like in the 20s, that I had no idea existed until a guy started writing about them. Robert Hansen started doing that, and there's a great blog that he's got that's really cool. But now more than ever, it seems like it's the idea of men's rights as men is getting a momentum. There's an inertia building behind it that I don't think we've ever seen before. And I would know I've only been at this for just about 4 years now, but I've talked to a lot of people, and it just seems like around 2008, 2009 was a real things came to a critical mass, I think, perhaps. When did you start getting interested in men's rights stuff? Around what time was it that you started getting interested in men's rights issues? Kudi, has it been a couple of years?
It was ever since the birth of the internet. So,
okay, so you've been...
As far as I'm concerned, the beginning of time.
Okay. For you, of course. But I don't know how long you've been around, so...
I don't either, because it's been so long. I can't remember. I haven't been keeping track. It's lonely out here in the Atacama Desert.
Oh, yeah. So you live in a desert, right?
And I don't have anything to keep track of time, really.
Oh, okay, cool. Do you have an internet connection out there?
Yeah, spiritual internet.
Okay, spiritual internet connection. That's cool. So you don't have to go anywhere. You just sort of hone in. You start meditating, and then you get hooked up with the internet. Is that how it works? I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, I just go into my hole and plug myself into the silicon matrix.
Okay.
And I basically just pick up the vibrations.
Cool. That's cool. That's pretty handy. You don't have to pay anything per month for that. That just sort of happens. Yeah. That's great.
If anyone wants to harass me and take a fight with me, you know where to find me.
Okay. Cool.
About 3,600 meters up in the sky, and in the driest place on Earth.
Nice.
There hasn't been any rain there in 1,000 years.
Oh, really? Well, what do you eat there? What do you eat? Insects or do you eat bugs?
There's cactuses around in the area.
Okay.
I also I find the occasional stray kitten very appetizing.
So you.
I'm mostly a vegetarian, but I will eat the occasional kitten.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't think you would be big enough to actually take down a kitten.
There's videos of me on the internet, actually.
Oh, really? Cool.
Check out the Kudi, yeah. Kudi versus cat. You should check it out.
Okay, I'll check that out.
So, one of Manboob's cats found me, and I told them to get lost, but they wouldn't listen to me, so I chased them around a bit.
I see.
They're pussies.
They're pussies. I see. I understand. Pussy. Nice. All right. Well, what do you think? What do you see happening in the future with the men's rights movement? Do you think this is just a bump on the road, or do you think this is do you think there's going to be a split? Do you think that
I don't think there's going to be a split. This is just a little bit of a distraction because there's really not too much going on. There's a little bit of boredom. Our enemies are retreating. We need to focus on our enemies and bring the fight to our enemies.
Mm-hmm. So do you think it's going to be a big year for the men's rights movement to 2013?
2013 is going to be a huge year for the men's rights movement.
What do you see happening? I mean, do you see anything specifically happening? I know we all have our own ideas, but what are yours? What do you think is going to happen?
Lots and lots of men's rights organizations will be popping up and organizing and planning. I don't know, and hopefully accomplishing some goals. Certainly getting more attention.
Certainly. Okay. So the biggest thing you see happening is just we're gonna hit the stage, so to speak. So people are gonna start Okay. People are going to start noticing us.
Mainstream media won't be able to ignore you anymore.
Right, I see. They just won't be able to do anything. Okay, I understand. Yeah, that's pretty much a consensus from a lot of people I know here at AVFM.
They're going to feminists will try, the industries that the feminists support, the Balwa industries, and all this court legal stuff, bureaucracies. They're going to try to, filibuster and buy some time, but they know it's over. I think they already know it's over.
Yeah. So how do you? I have my own ideas as to why they feel that way. Why do you think they feel it? Do you really think they fully realize that they no longer have iron-fisted control of the narrative anymore, and that they really are trying to try to squash us in a panic, trying to squash us any way they can, but they realize there's no way they can? Do you think that's what's going on? Okay.
Truth is like gravity.
Yeah.
Right. So they know that their structure is basically a house of cards, and they can already see the foundations cracking, and they can feel it shaking.
What do you think is?
They know what direction they can head from.
Okay.
From this point.
What do you think is the central issue at this point, as far as that's concerned? Do you think it's VAWA reauthorization? They know now that it's not going to be that easy for them, and that it's because people are successful in challenging their ideas, or do you think it's the family courts, or do you think that because of people are starting to actually turn their attention on the family courts and fathers' rights are starting to get some traction, as they clearly have demonstrated to get traction in some states, or do you think that it's people in the education system are starting to realize that male students and men are starting to get onto their game? Or do you think it's all those things, or do you think that?
I think it's all of those things. I'm not so sure about the education system. I think the education system is just happy. Okay. I don't think they see it much of a threat, and I think we do need to focus on education for the long run.
Sure.
Because every kid that's brainwashed, that's a big loss.
Sure, it's a huge loss. They have to be re-exposed to the truth, and that could take a lifetime sometimes, unfortunately.
Especially when the truth is just not cool.
Right.
And you don't. Everybody wants to be a loser, right? Mm-hmm. Especially nowadays.
Well, they're taught that they're oftentimes taught that the truth is a dangerous thing. You tell that to a little kid, it's going to stick. And
that's what I think these collectivists tend to believe, that truth is dangerous and that power is dangerous for the general population.
One of the things I think we really need to watch out for is for the new internet bills that will be coming up here pretty soon. And already an executive order has been signed to help look for terrorists posting on the internet, that type of thing. But they've got such a wide range of groups that they're looking at now.
Well, tell us more about this. I didn't hear about this. Is there actually a list of people they're calling terrorists? Now, are they going to let the SPLC define what a terrorist is? Is that what they're going to do?
Give me just 1 second. No. I don't think it's quite like that. Give me just 1 second to find it here.
I wouldn't put it past them to be that way.
Yeah, you guys continue ahead. I'll pull the information up, okay?
Okay, great. Do that. Do that, James. So, Kudi, back to education. That's an extremely important subject, and that's actually what got me interested in men's rights at the very beginning. I was an administrator for a college in Maryland, and it was a terrible experience for me professionally, but also
I can't speak to that, being a rodent.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right. Well, all right.
It'd be great if I had personal experience, I can tell you. But
okay, but
I've heard a lot.
Yeah, of course you've heard a lot. But what, in your own opinion, just what do you think is going to be the cracking point for it? Pardon me. Is it going to be the cracking point in education? Do you think it's going to be when the number of male students is going to get so low that people are going to have to recognize that something's wrong with our education system, as opposed to there being something wrong with male students? Or do you think there's going to be some sort of uprising, so to speak, where actually people, parents and students, start getting serious and start seriously challenging school administrators and academics and saying, hey, what you're doing is hateful, it's terrible, you need to reform it now before this gets out of hand? Or do you think both those things are going to happen? What do you think?
Well, anytime you alienate and disenfranchise a large, segment of the population, you can expect to get an uprising, and I'm sure they're anticipating an uprising. So the worse the problem gets, the more likely there's going to be an uprising.
So you think that they're anticipating like a real, right now, do you think they're really anticipating like a real challenge to their power over the education system?
Yes, because when people give up on their future, they're much harder to control.
I see.
When they have nothing to lose. When they don't see themselves, getting anywhere.
Right.
They don't see the reason for cooperating and sucking up.
Right.
They'd rather do their own thing, go their own way. And
okay, I've got some information
hard
here.
To control.
CISPA, the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act, has been reintroduced to Congress. Okay. And as it looks right now, it pretty much gives federal agencies almost unlimited access to virtually any personal data and online communications.
Oh my God.
Via third parties without a warrant. So if you're doing some trading with Amazon or anything like that, or you're doing trading or you're doing something within an ISP, they can pull the ISP data, the whole 9 yards. Okay, simply by, instead of going to you and coming up to you, instead they'll just go to the third party who has your information stored on a server somewhere, and they can collect it without a warrant. Okay, this is the type of thing that's going on. Another one is the fact that the White House has already passed a executive order. Okay. And the White House Senior Director for Community Partnerships on the National Security Staff, Quentin Torowitz, is quoted as saying, okay, this covers violent extremist groups like Al-Qaeda and its affiliates and its adherents, violent supremacist groups, violent sovereign citizens, and things of that nature. But you have to understand that with the way things are being politicized and with the pushback that we are now getting from our enemies, particularly feminists, I would have, and people like the SPLC, I would have no doubt in my mind that eventually it's going to come into their heads to attempt to put anyone identifying as part of the men's rights movement into this.
Certainly wouldn't put it past them. There's certainly going to be an attempt made there. There's no doubt. Well, just look what the entire thing with the SPLC hit piece that was done on us last year. That was an attempt to get. That's what the SPLC does. It is the self-proclaimed expert at identifying, quote, hate groups. And for a long time, the FBI took them very seriously. I would like to think, and actually I don't think, pretty much don't think that they take them as seriously as they used to, because I think everybody knows by now the SPLC has lost a lot of credibility, not just over its tanglings with the men's rights movement, but with a lot of other people too. But clearly that hit piece was an attempt to paint us out as a dangerous group of hateful people that are interested in acts of violence. I mean, it was just that the lies told in that article in the intelligence report were just totally geared towards painting us as a violent movement, which we are not. And I think that you're absolutely right, James. I think that's an indication that in the future you're going to start seeing our opponents trying to use the government apparatus to target us in the future. But that might win us more converts. I'm interested in seeing what happens. Personally,
as long as they don't succeed.
So am I. I mean, one of the things that the government definitely doesn't like is the idea that there are quite a few people out there who simply don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. They're taking their ball and they're going home, and they do not like that because it removes minds from their power. I mean, you're looking at professionals, true craftsmen in whatever field that they've chosen, basically just packing up, saying, "Fuck you guys. I've invested enough into this misandrous system. I'm out of here." You bleed out brain power out of the country when that starts to happen, and you also bleed out revenue. And so the idea that anybody can actually get along without the government's help is a very dangerous idea to them. So understand that when we say, look, we've got to get rid of Title IX and support Title VII. We've got to try to get the ERA passed and get rid of VAWA. When we say things like that, that becomes a very, very dangerous thing, according to the government. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, we may very well get exactly what we do need. I mean, I would love to see a resurgence in the use of Title VII by men and boys who are discriminated in the workplace. I think that would be great. Actually seeing the ERA pass, although I'm pretty sure there's not a snowball's chance in hell, would at the very least provide us with a whole lot of information on our enemies' movements and plans, because I'm pretty sure at this point the feminists realize they have got a great deal going. And if the ERA actually did pass, it would shatter almost everything that they've set up over the last 35 years.
Kudi, can you tell us how you feel about the Equal Rights Amendment, how men's rights activists have been kind of trying to get it talked about again, although, as James said, we're a long way from even getting it up to a vote. What do you think about a new movement to try to get the Equal Rights Amendment passed?
Well, I think you have to remember that any law that's passed or any amendment is any piece of legislation is just a piece of paper at the end of the day. So you have to, don't think that is enough to solve the problem, right? Don't be too invested in that. I mean, it can help, but it's not, as long as you don't get the population or the people who are in power to actually believe in it and actually uphold it, then you don't have anything. You just have a piece of paper.
Well, the theory is that it would be an actual constitutional amendment, and
Constitution is just a piece of paper. Yeah,
but what would happen is it would open up the way, and this is how the Constitution stops being just a piece of paper, is when the statutes in the Constitution, or what the Constitution actually says, opens the way for litigation. Men who are required to sign up for selective service, again to bring up that example, there would start to be lawsuits saying, hey, it's a violation of my Equal Rights Amendment rights, as well as a great many other things. Affirmative action, the Violence Against Women Act would would have to change its name, and there's so many statutes in the legislation that would have to change because of the amendment. But then again, what you're saying is absolutely right. Without that action, it's just a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. But because it's a constitutional amendment, action will be taken. Litigation will open up. At least I would certainly hope that it would. But then again, who knows?
Well, I'm sure that it would open up, but also understand that our judges, our judges are given lessons in postmodern discourse in dealing with all kinds of cases, especially the family court judges, and this will naturally stymie the efforts within the judicial system, regardless of what's passed in the legislative system. So even if the ERA is passed, you're probably still looking at about 20 years for the rotation of judges to get off the bench and new ones to come in before anything really significant is accomplished.
Well,
either way, guys, I really don't expect this battle to be anywhere near complete until well after I'm dead. I'm in it for the long haul, so, you know.
Well, we're probably not going to see an equal rights amendment until after both of us, all three of us are gone. I think, but I don't know, Kudi. I don't know what your lifespan is, Kudi. Maybe it's much longer.
I mean, even if the thing was passed tomorrow, like I said, it'd take 20 years from the time of its passage for there to be any real and lasting change within society.
Yeah, you were going to say something, Kudi. Go ahead.
Well, about my life expectancy, I've been around quite a long time. I've lost count, but I'm sure it's at least 1,000 years in your.
Oh, okay, great.
Human years. And in that time, well, I've studied the art of Neoteny. I've channeled Neotenous vibrations, and this, basically at the end of this process, I become immortal. So don't worry about me.
Okay, well, we'll be. I'm sure that maybe 1,000 years from now, we'll be calling on your wisdom again, and hopefully things will be different then. James, it's about it's about 10 after 10. Let's go for a music break and see if we can get some callers in here, and then we'll be back in about 5 minutes. How does that sound, James?
Oh, that sounds great. I'd like to remind everybody that the call-in number is 310-388-9709. Call on in, guys.
All right, everybody, we're back. And Kudi has a special treat for us. Kudi's going to sing us a song. Kudi, go ahead and do what you want to do. You say you're going to sing a song about feminism. Is that what you're going to do? Give us a little intro to the song before you away.
There's a catchy new song I've heard the little young ones singing these days. And
okay.
See if I can remember it. Here it goes. Okay.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I need feminism because I have issues that I want to share. I need feminism because I wear piercings and I dye my hair. I need feminism because I'd rather be a slut than a stud. I need feminism because I'd like to drink my own menstrual blood. I need feminism because it protects me from hate. I need feminism because it sucks to be so great. I need feminism because I still have my youth. I need feminism because it's my only truth.
Brilliant. That was awesome, man.
I like it too. It's really catchy.
Yeah,
I like it out of my head.
That's great, man.
Well, have you thought about going to a studio with that?
Yeah, man. We'll get down some.
If you come up with a whole bunch of jingles like that, I'm pretty sure you could get a CD rolling.
We'll definitely feature some of your tracks on the show. That's for sure. If you can.
It's already on the internet.
Oh, really? Okay. We'll get it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I guess we can rip the audio if you give us permission and put it up on the show here.
Yeah, man.
It's written in stone right now. It's written in stone.
Cool. All right.
Excellent.
We'll make it happen.
We've actually got a guest here. We're going to go ahead and bring on Dean Esme. Welcome to the show, Dean.
I am honored to speak to the great mystical Kudi.
Great. Nice to have you on, Dean, as well.
Hey.
Wow. Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. Kudi, I recently cribbed some of your writings. I hope you don't mind.
You what of them?
I recently cribbed some of your writings. We got a document about 50 of us are working on that we're going to release in the next week or so, and we stole some of your writings. I hope you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, the five main points. Point number one. The gender war is a convenient feminist fiction. Don't sign up for it. Okay, yeah, and et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. We changed the wording a little bit, but I thought it was pretty brilliant. So, hope you don't mind.
Just give them some credit, you know.
Well, I love humans a lot. A lot. They're almost my favorite animal, next to elephants and donkeys. So anything I can do to get to earn my recognition as a human. That's all the reward I want, really. One of these days.
How did you wind up in Canada, Kudi? Why are there so many MRAs in Canada?
I'm not in Canada.
I thought you were Canadian.
I talk about Canada a lot. It's an interesting country. But actually, I'm from South America, Chile, actually. A place called the Atacama Desert. And it's a very high, very dry place. There's not much life there. There's actually no life there. Just a few cactuses and some kittens. What do you like to chow down on? Kittens and cactuses.
So most MRAs enjoy eating kittens. So I guess you have that in common with us as well.
I have a lot in common with MRAs.
Well, you can't. It's harder for you to say MHRA, human rights, because you're not human. So that might pose a problem for
right.
you.
I want to be human, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well,
MRA is easier to say.
Right.
And mystical rodent activist, MRA. Yeah.
Right.
Mystical.
What kind of things do you advocate for in the rodent community? Are there issues going on there that you are advocating for or against? Or
I don't really have much of an attachment to the rodent community, just because I'm older than most of the rodents I know, a lot older, and they're also immature. I don't have much to talk to them about or relate to them about.
Oh, they're pretty much interested in just.
I'm used to seeing them come and go, and I know they're going to die. I don't really care about them that much. I just like to be by myself in my hole in the desert, and just I play pool and I chase cats.
Great.
9 bucks.
Where do the cats come from? Do visitors bring them up, or like campers or something like that? They bring their cats with them and you eat them.
I've been seeing a lot more cats recently. I'm not sure where they're coming from. That they've been stalking me these days.
Well, I would imagine after a good 40 years of feminism, that would really explain where all the cats are coming from.
That's right. That's an interesting point. Increasing the cat population.
Absolutely, because all these older second wave feminists really do need the company.
So I have another question for Kudi. I tend to think this is a little bit of a tempest in a teapot, but what do you think about this whole MHRA versus MRA thing? You think it's a silly distraction?
I think it's for humans to decide. It's a little bit of a distraction for now, but I think that's because you guys don't have, you guys are a little bit bored. And, if you have time to kill,
we talked about that.
It depends on why you want to do it. Whenever you're bickering with each other, it's probably because you're not, you're not occupied enough.
I agree with
that. I think it's good to, bring the battle to the enemy, right? The enemy will hide when they think it's convenient to see if you just forget about them. And, it's important not to forget about the enemy.
There you go. That's what keeps people apart, right?
You forget why you're there. Don't forget why you're there. Don't get bored. Don't decide, it's not worth it. Don't get caught up in, it's a race against time. Right? There's not that much time. You got to think about time as, scarce resource, and we want to get changes as soon as possible. Think about it that way. There's no time to bicker, and the enemy would love to filibuster and waste your time, and eventually get you to forget why. What's the point? Think maybe some other interest will come your way and distract you. That's what they want. They want you to be distracted. So don't give in to that.
What do you think about the idea of the men's rights movement? I've said this before. I adopted this language from a guy that kind of got me. He did an interview with Stephen Trottier on the pendulum effect, and he said that the men's rights movement is a movement of. It's never going to be a movement of consensus. There are way too many different types of people in the movement, so it's never be one of consensus, but it's going to be one of coalition, we can only agree on the things that we agree to agree on, and then move forward from there. What do you think about that line of reasoning? That always, and I think now more than ever, that rings true with me. We're never going to agree on everything. There's always going to be people who are.
Yeah. You have to make a compromise. Yeah, you won't be able to agree on everything, but you'll at least agree on a lot of things. So,
yeah, and it's not so much
that you agree on.
Yeah, it's not so much that you have to compromise your feelings or your convictions, but you have to just basically, it's a coalition. You have to meet up with people that agree with you on a certain issue, and then work on that issue 1 week or 1 month, and then the next month you find people that agree with you on another, and then you just do it the same way. I don't think we're ever going to get everyone to agree on everything. I think there are core issues in the men's rights movement. Maybe we can talk about that. There are core issues about the men's rights that I think everyone can agree on. What do you think those core issues are? I mean, maybe we can just sort of talk about that right now. What are the defining issues of the men's rights movement that you think everyone can agree on, or that everyone?
I think probably to get rid of the double standard and to get the state out of the family, because the double standards is the doorway into the family. Right. By playing men and women, father and mother, husband and wife against each other, to cause a fight where there would not be a fight otherwise. That's the economic sort of tools that they have to use to turn people against each other. That's what they want to do, right? Because they profit, right? Our enemies profit when men and women fight.
And they also gain control over children, over the family.
Yeah.
Basically. Gain control over what they should never have control over. Their enemy, their number one enemy of the state is the family, basically.
They want the children. That's what they want.
What are some other core issues that you see? I have a few that kind of like to throw out there. I think that.
Well, I guess the main issues would be family courts and also criminal courts.
Right.
Although family courts have usurped a lot of the criminal court activity, and education system. That'd be our 3 problems that need to be solved.
Right.
And then there's other issues too that don't really seem to fit in there, like I don't know. I mean, there's like reproductive rights and I guess that sort of does fit in there.
Yeah, that is.
Circumcision. Circumcision seems to be tacked on there. It's it's quite different from the other issues. I won't say what I think about that. I'll just leave that one alone.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, if I could jump in, like I said, some people have expressed some concern, but so maybe a lot of that concern is going to evaporate when I stop talking about it and just release it. But like I said, we had about 58 MRAs and MRA supporters collaborate on a document on things people mostly agreed with, and I was shocked how much of it really was consensual, a broad consensus. And they're all the things that Kudi just said. Double standards, tired of them. Hypocrisy, tired of them. Family courts, big deal. Criminal courts, big deal. I'm sorry, are a big deal. I'm not saying that in a dismissive way. You'd be surprised how little disagreement there was, even on contentious issues like abortion, which everybody argues about. So I hope people are looking forward to seeing that, and then they can take whatever they want out of that, either like it or not like it.
Well, I think that's necessary that we do that. I've been thinking about that a lot. There should be somewhere a list, because people ask all the time, what are men's rights activists? What are their goals? What are the solutions they propose? Because that's one of the biggest criticisms we get, is that we're just a bunch of complainers and we don't have any goals and we don't have any solutions. Well, we do have solutions. We do have ideas, but our opponents try to obscure them from the broader awareness. And also, I don't, but there's been a couple of, well, actually, I think, you think about the National Coalition for Men and a few other people, they've actually enumerated on their websites, hey, these are the issues that men face. But A Voice for Men hasn't done that yet. I'd like to get in on that. Actually, Dean, I think I just messaged you about that.
See, Robert, the goal is to get it. Actually, the goal is to get it, but the goal is to get it done by the end of this week.
Okay.
And because, as you said, I've said it, others have said it, being against something is very, very easy. Mm-hmm. Saying what you're for is harder. But I was surprised. I expected a lot more arguments over what we stand for, and they're really pretty simple. It's not, I don't know. I can give you the basics. It is about, reproductive freedom goes in there. Genital cutting is mentioned in there. If there's going to be funding, you don't even have to argue should there be government funding or not. You can, of health issues, for example.
Right.
You can take the position that if there is to be such funding, it can't be done in a sexually discriminatory manner, or at least
You can also say the same for reproductive rights. If women are going to have reproductive rights, men should have parity of those reproductive rights too.
Precisely. Whatever they are, there should be whatever is a common sense parity of the two. On almost any issue, it's just like you might even be a strong libertarian and say, well, there should be no government schools. All right, if you're going to take that position, you could take that position, but at least I would agree that as long as we have government schools, we should be addressing them, in a way that is not harming boys and helping, favoring girls or whatever. Not as hard as I thought it would be.
I would agree with that. I mean, we are still going to have to. We're still going to have to work with the canvas that we're given. And while I would say we continue to push a cultural idea of being able to reduce the level of government involvement in children's lives, for now we're kind of stuck with it. So I would definitely agree. If we're going to have these laws that say one thing, we better make sure that there's parity there.
That's right. And while it might be great to get the family courts completely out of the family, you can't entirely, because there's still going to be people who fight over their children, in which case we've got to get rid of double standards that favor the mother over the father or whatever, and try to get it away from the conflict-oriented model more toward all right, you are going to separate, you've determined you're going to do this, what's your plan for getting along and raising your children together still?
Look, there's more to that. It's not just they're using the conflict model as a way to exploit family breakdown for their own ends, and those ends are for financial gain and to get politically and to actually get control over family life. People think that Dr. Stephen Baskerville is a I've heard people call him like some sort of crazy libertarian lunatic, and he's paranoid. But no, if you read his book, the Taken into Custody, War on Family, he lays out very clear that basically the government has already gotten its most coveted and dangerous goal met: control over the children. In the name of they can take your kids away. They can, if there's any kind of conflict at all in divorce, guess what? First thing that happens is they tout this thing, best interest of the children. Well, if you start saying that, you can do anything you want, and no one can touch you. Your kids will be taken away from you. That's just one of those things.
Two things I think you humans should do about this. One thing is, the idea of informed consent and just being honest, right? A lot of people have misconceptions about marriage. They think it's a real deal. It doesn't seem to be with this no-fault divorce. There doesn't seem to be any real, commitment. So
deal at all.
What you should do is raise awareness of that there is no real commitment, and also give people another option. Give people an option to not have no-fault divorce. To say, special contract that you can't just tear it up for no reason, right? Give people the freedom to make a commitment if they want to,
or not. The other thing is the whole common law marriage thing, where if you just shack up with somebody for more than 5 years, you're basically married. The state marries you in absentia. That's completely wrong. That is the ultimate state intrusion into your life. That is something that is, and this is done all in the name to protect women and children from lackadaisical men that just take off and leave, regardless of whether the fact that they're married or not. And that is real bigotry directed at men, and it's just used as a tool for the state to gain control over the lives of families. And it's actually more conducive to family breakdown than anything else, because that's what the state wants.
Yeah, that's two things we need to do, right? Make it optional. And give people options, right, when it comes to getting rid of no-fault divorce. But if you want no-fault divorce, you can have it. If you don't want it, you don't need it. You can have, a marriage that has, a marriage what it used to mean before no fault divorce.
Yeah, you can have actually a contractual marriage that actually means something. Right. Like if you leave the marriage contract, if you decide you want to go, you're going to leave with what you came with. If you make a unilateral decision to do that, or if you have extramarital sex or something like that, or whatever, or you become abusive or you become an alcoholic, then you have then the other partner has some redress. It's actual contractual, like it used to be. But the no-fault divorce revolution really just it ended marriage the way it should be, and unfortunately, with
everybody's marriage contract was torn up without their consent.
Absolutely, yeah, and again with this common law marriage thing, what it is, it's nothing more than the state gaining control over your life. That's all that it is, and this was done again in the name of protecting children and women from, men who don't want to commit. You're going to commit whether you like it or not, and the state defines what commitment is, and the state defines what fatherhood is. The state's definition of a father is a sperm donor turned ATM machine. That's the state's definition of a father. That's it.
It's very interesting because to people it sounds odd that you would actually draw up a contract with specific things in it like that. Like, why would you draw up a contract? Don't you just know what marriage is?
Well,
but if you look at history, if you look at history, going all the way back to the Roman Empire, you can find documents that were contracts between people before they got married and when they got married, specifying who had what duties to do what. We had written legal contracts going all the way back. It's not a new idea, radical of an idea.
And it's not, and actually...
And there are other countries where they still do it that way. I mean, so,
Yeah, and actually...
love is romantic. Love is romantic, but there's no reason to think that marriage has to be romantic.
No, and actually...
I mean, we all like to party. We all like to throw a big wedding, don't we? Well, some of us do.
And actually, Kudi, maybe you can shed some light, because you're an ancient being, but from what I understand... marriage...
I forget how old I am sometimes.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, maybe you can shed light on this, maybe you can't. But from what I've learned about marriage, the institution of marriage, is that it actually predates organized religion. It has always been a deal between two individuals who want to have a reproductive contract. And really, to begin with, religion had nothing to do with it, because they had shown signs of pair bonding long before... familial pair bonding long before there was any kind of inkling of an organized religious system under which men and women paired with each other. And I know that makes...
Absolutely. And the dinosaurs I used to hang out, the brontosauruses, I noticed they had something like marriage as well.
Really?
They would, there's no evidence of it anymore, but I can tell you from personal experience, I did. They had their contracts.
Well, there are certain animals that pair bond, and they have their different duties. I'm sure when one screws up, then the other one can say "see you later" pretty easily, and actually that's pretty healthy for family life, I think.
My own marriage contract specifies what happens if my wife gets eaten. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, you get to find another wife, I would think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing about marriage is it's a social contract too, right? I mean, it's a soft contract where everyone knows you're married. That's why you have the big party to let everyone know. So if it doesn't go well, there's a consequence. You feel ashamed. You promised in front of everyone, and you went back on your word. That's that could be very you could feel dishonorable, right? So,
well, yeah. Well, there was always social pressure.
There's always a consequence. Yeah. Whether it's written on a piece of paper or whether there has to be a consequence. That's I guess the takeaway point.
Well, it's the thing. This is what happens when the state gets involved and they want marital breakup. They give incentives for one party to make a unilateral decision to break it up, and that's what's happened. We have this no-fault divorce. At the same time this no-fault divorce revolution happens, we start passing all these laws, and all of a sudden these statutes pop up where with lifelong alimony becomes ridiculous, and child custody automatically goes to the mom, and along with it, exorbitant amounts of child support, for which she has no accountability as to how it's spent, and then you have things like imputed income when you calculate child support, and then you have things that inability to pay, like job loss or illness, is no longer an excuse, and you're going to get thrown in jail if you can't pay it. That's what happened in parallel.
And men will still agree to it. Because they're risk takers.
Right. Sure. Well, you know what? I think there's something. I've said this. There was when I had my interview with Stardust, we talked about this. I think that marriage has been for a long time what I like to call, in light of the fact that it's just not worth it anymore. For most men, it is still this stupid validation of manhood that somehow it defines you as a man. If you take a woman in and take care of her and all this, you're not really a man if you don't do that. And so many men fall into that your life isn't complete if you're not married. And I couldn't.
Or you're not afraid.
Oh yeah,
you're not afraid. You don't think less of yourself. You can do it. You can make it happen.
Yeah.
You're all powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not afraid of anything. You're not afraid of women.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not the woman you're scared of. It's what the state's going to do to you if this woman decides to make a unilateral decision to end the marriage. I mean, that's the frightening part, and that's just not. I mean, most MRAs will tell you, especially MGTOWs, of which I am one, will tell you that's just a no-win situation. Just don't do it. Don't ever do that. And the derogatory statements get thrown at men who are above a certain age who haven't been married. It's just amazing. I mean,
well, I have a question for you as an MGTOW.
Sure.
Have you considered the possibility of setting up a special arrangement where you have special contracts?
I mean, like a
special. Is it? I don't know about the legalities. Is it possible?
Well, the thing is about any kind of contracts you make when it comes to reproduction, when it comes to relationships with women, or when it comes to reproduction, having children with a woman and your relationship with said woman and said children. Any kind of contract you make, private contract you make with that person, the state makes it null and void. That's the problem that we're facing. There's no. I mean, there's no way you can just write a contract saying unless you hire, if you want to reproduce, you want to have kids. The only way you can get around that is if you have a surrogate mother and you pay her like $30,000 to have your kid, and then she hands over the kid and she goes. But even then, that's fraught with disaster, because there have been cases where surrogate mothers have actually asserted parenthood over the children that they were surrogates for, and have actually successfully sued for and been awarded child support. And that's happened in England a couple times, I know. But still, that's the closest thing you can get to any real contract between the male and female for reproductive purposes outside of marriage and state control. So, but surrogate parenthood is a relatively new. Well, no, it's really not a new idea, but now with now you can create an embryo between a sperm and someone's eggs and have that egg inserted into a surrogate mother that's not related to either egg or sperm donor, and she can have a baby. That's a relatively new thing there, and the reason that's new. And I'm sure right now the state is making inroads to making sure that they own that too. That's for sure.
One possibility would be to perhaps set up a parallel legal system to compete with the state. I wonder about. It's just something that just popped into my head right now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's an interesting thought, but I don't think that currently, right now, the state will have that. Then you're talking about expatriatism, expatriation, where we actually leave and you go somewhere else and set up shop somewhere else, and there was an article dealing with that recently. So, anyway, it is now 10:40. Dean, do you have anything else to say before you have anything else to ask Mr. Kudi before we get out of here?
No. Thank you for talking, Kudi. You are an infinite source of wisdom. Please keep enlightening us with your ancient wisdom. That's all I have.
Gee, I'm flattered, human. Thank you.
Wonderful. Maybe
it's been great to talk to you.
Great. Well, hopefully you can grace us with your presence. With that, James, do you have any advice that you want to give the audience before we get out of here?
Yeah, I sure do, guys. Take the red pill.
This has been a production of AVoiceForMen.com, the flagship of the men's rights movement. Co-hosts James Huff and Robert O'Hara would like to thank our guests and listeners for joining us, and would also like to remind listeners that the views expressed by the guests are not necessarily the views of the Voice for Men editorial and production staff. A Voice for Men and all of its associated radio shows are supported solely by donations from readers and listeners. So please consider visiting avoiceformen.com and making a contribution, no matter how small. Every single penny is one more we would not have had if you had not made a donation. Have a good evening, and be sure to log in next week. And remember, take the red pill.